What is a poem? Hi, and welcome to another version of Book Bites. Today we're going to discuss poetry. I'm Corinne DeLone Ladd from Martin Library and York Academy Regional Charter School Library. I want you to think about what a poem is as we read different examples from different books today. And I want you to think about writing some poems yourself, but we'll talk more about that towards the end. Did you know that a poem can be as short as just several words or as long as an entire book? There have been books made by authors with many, many poems in them, or books with just one poem that takes up an entire book. An example of that would be The Midnight Ride of Paul Revere by Longfellow and Hiawatha, also by Longfellow. I'd like to start, though, with a book called Flutter Fly, and it's selected by Lee Bennett Hopkins. So when you see selected by, you have a pretty good idea, excuse me, that there are going to be poems by different authors in here. This is published by Delacorte Press, and when you look at the table of contents, you do indeed see that there are multiple poems by many different authors. Now, from the front cover, you can tell it probably has something to do with some kind of insects or outdoor creatures of some sort, and even the way the title is written sort of gives you the idea of motion. Think about that as you think about writing your own poems and how you want the reader to interact with your poem. Do you want them to feel an emotion? Do you want them to see something in their head about what they're reading? And how do you want that poem to flow? For example, the one on this page is called A Magic House by Lillian Fisher. Someone's little silken house is hanging by a thread. A brown cocoon looks like a leaf as shown in books I've read. It swings among the poplar leaves. I watch it and I giggle, because whatever is inside makes me wiggle, waggle, wiggle. The little home has burst its skin and someone's coming out, now slowly getting bigger as it twists and turns about. My heart begins to flutter, though I dare not move a hair. Suddenly, like magic, a butterfly is there. And another selection from this book is by Lillian Moore called Hey Bug. Hey Bug, stay. Don't run away. I know a game that we can play. I'll hold my fingers very still, and you can climb a finger hill. No, don't go. Here's a wall, a tower too, a tiny bug town just for you. I have a cookie. You have some. Take this oatmeal cookie crumb. Hey, bug, stay. Hey, bug, hey. Now, you notice that those poems weren't very long. They had a kind of a good rhythm to them. They flowed well. You got the image of what was going on in addition to what the illustrator did with the pictures, and they had some rhyme to them. When I asked you what a poem is, what is a poem, did you immediately think of something written a little differently than a paragraph and that it rhymes? Well, a lot of poems do, and they make reading them very much fun, but not all poems have to rhyme. So keep that in mind as we go on too. Now, I know you're in the middle of your summer activities and probably not too willing to think about school, but there is another collection of poems by Lee Bennett Hopkins called School Supplies, a book of poems, and I thought that this one might be kind of fun to take a look at too. The illustrations in this one are a lot different than the first one that we saw, and Aladdin published this one. This is called Popsicle Sticks and Glue, and the poem is written by Leslie Perkins. We're building a village with popsicle sticks, just popsicle sticks and glue. Houses and fences, sidewalks and streets, a school and a library too. Museums, churches, temples, shops, a playground, a park, and a zoo. Isn't it wonderful what we can do with popsicle sticks and a new tube of glue? So, given the theme that it's about school supplies, does this remind you of anything you might have done in your classroom or in art class? And here's one called Homework. Now, remember, we said poems don't have to rhyme, but it's still written in the form that you would normally associate with poetry, a few words per line. Homework by Barbara Juster Espenson. It rustles, it shifts, with no wind in the room to move it. Listen, the blank white paper needs your attention. Where are the words? It whispers. I'm lonesome for words and circles and spelling your name and assignments. Put your hand on the paper to calm it. Pick up your pen. Say, paper, I'm here when you need me. Begin. Now, that type of poem was a lot different than the first one we read about the popsicle sticks in this book, or the ones in Flutter and Fly about the critters outside. And it was written differently in a slightly different style and didn't rhyme. But it still gave us an image, and it gave us something to think about. Yeah. One of my favorite poets for young people is Shel Silverstein. And I've chosen quite a few from his book Where the Sidewalk Ends for us to delve into today, because his have all different kinds of things going on with them. HarperCollins published this book. Now, the illustrations in all of his poems for this book are in black and white and just simple sketches. Ickle me, pickle me, tickle me too. Ickle me, pickle me, tickle me too, went for a ride in a flying shoe. Hooray, what fun, it's time we flew, said Ickle me, pickle me, tickle me too. Ickle was captain and Pickle was crew, and Tickle served coffee and mulligan stew. As higher and higher and higher they flew, Ickle me, pickle me, tickle me too. Ickle me, pickle me, tickle me too, over the sun and beyond the blue. Hold on, stay in, I hope we do, cried Ickle me, pickle me, tickle me too. Ickle me, pickle me, tickle me too, never returned to the world they knew. And nobody knows what's happened to dear Ickle me, pickle me, tickle me too. The rhyme in that one is just a lot of fun. It's dark in here. I am writing these poems from inside a lion, and it's rather dark in here, so please excuse the handwriting, which may not be too clear. But this afternoon by the lion's cage, I'm afraid I got too near, and I'm writing these lines from inside a lion, and it's rather dark in here. Now, if you were paying attention to the rhyme scheme in that one, that was a little different than Ickle me, pickle me, tickle me too, and it takes kind of a different musical beat to it almost. All right, let's look at some more, because his are so quick and easy and yet so meaningful also. Sarah Cynthia Sylvia Stout would not take the garbage out. Now this one's longer, takes 2 full pages, and you notice the illustrations with it aren't nearly as big because the poem takes up most of the page. Sarah Cynthia Sylvia Stout would not take the garbage out. She'd scour the pots and scrape the pans, candy the yams and spice the hams. And though her daddy would scream and shout, she simply would not take the garbage out. And so it piled up to the ceilings, coffee grounds, potato peelings, brown bananas, rotten peas, chunks of sour cottage cheese. It filled the can, it covered the floor, it cracked the window and blocked the door, with bacon rinds and chicken bones, drippy ends of ice cream cones, prune pits, peach pits, orange peel, gloppy glumps of cold oatmeal, pizza crusts and withered greens, soggy beans and tangerines, crusts of black-burned buttered toast, gristly bits of beefy roast. The garbage rolled on down the hall, it raised the roof, it broke the wall. Greasy napkins, cookie crumbs, globs of gooey bubble gum, cellophane from green bologna, rubbery, blubbery macaroni, peanut butter caked and dry, curdled milk and crusts of pie, moldy melons, dried up mustard, eggshells mixed with lemon custard, cold French fries and rancid meat, yellow lumps of cream of wheat. At last the garbage reached so high that it finally touched the sky, and all the neighbors moved away, and none of her friends would come to play. And finally, Sarah Cynthia Stout said, "Okay, I'll take the garbage out." But then, of course, it was too late. The garbage reached across the state, from New York to the Golden Gate, and there, in the garbage she did hate, poor Sarah met an awful fate, and I cannot right now relate, because the hour is much too late. But children, remember Sarah Stout, and always take the garbage out. Now, that garbage poem was filled with a lot of references to food. Here's one poem called Spaghetti, dedicated just to one type of food. Spaghetti, spaghetti all over the place, up to my elbows, up to my face, over the carpet and under the chairs, into the hammock and wound round its stairs, filling the bathtub and covering the desk, making the sofa a mad, mushy mess. The party is ruined. I'm terribly worried. I guess have all left, unless they're all buried. I told them, bring presents, I said. Throw confetti. I guess they heard wrong, 'cause they all threw spaghetti. The illustration on this one is just a simple smiley face, and the poem is called The Land of Happy. Have you been to the land of happy, where everybody's happy all day, where they joke and sing of the happiest things and everything's jolly and gay, and there's no one unhappy in happy? There's laughter and smiles galore. I have been to the land of happy. What a bore. Now, all that was kind of short and quick and easy and still makes you think. But this one on this page, with looks like a tree and a kid dangling from the limb on the tree, this is written in a totally different style. So if you think about writing poetry, you can think about writing it like this one, line by line, or you can think about writing it like this one, a word at a time, upside down, backwards. You can have some that swirl around, depending on what the theme of your poem is. Sometimes what you do with how you put the words on the page can help the reader to get into the mood of the poem. This one's called Oops. My poems all come out upside down. I cannot turn them all around. I do try, but can't, I found. My poems all come out upside down. Oops. So you have to be careful when you're reading and writing poetry. Make sure that what you're looking at also helps you to understand the poem. Okay, this one's kind of interesting, I think, because it expresses a lot of what a lot of people feel. Don't tell me. Please don't tell me I should hug. Don't tell me I should care. Don't tell me just how grand I'd feel if I'd just learned to share. Don't say, it's all right to cry. Be kind, be fair, be true. Just let me see you do it. Then I just might do it too. And the last one from Shel Silverstein's Where the Sidewalk Ends is a personal favorite of mine for many years. It's called Listen to the Mustn'ts. Listen to the mustn'ts, child. Listen to the don'ts. Listen to the shouldn'ts, the impossibles, the won'ts. Listen to the never haves. Then listen close to me. Anything can happen, child. Anything can be. The last book from York County Libraries that I want to share with you today is Poetry from A to Z, a guide for young writers. And it is written by Paul Janesco. It's available, I know for sure, in York Academy Regional Charter School Lower School Library, which is part of York County Libraries. And I'm sure you can put it on hold if you want to have it come delivered to your local library. So this is a book, not just how to write poems, but different types of poems. And there's one for each letter of the alphabet, a type of poem or an example of a poem. And the author goes through and basically gives you suggestions on different types of poems and then gives examples. So, for an example, a poem of direct address. A poem of direct address talks directly to another person or thing. The thing can be anything you want: a plant, animal, mailbox, Godzilla, your sneakers, or, in Richard Edwards' poem listed here, a maggot. And then they give the example of the poem about a maggot. Okay. But when you're writing a poem, you want to write something about what you know, what you see, what you think, what you feel. Okay. The poem can give you images, and it can be an awful lot of fun for you to create too. For example, the poem under A in this book, called Autumn Beat by Monica Culling. Leaves are racing down the street, bundled bunches at my feet. A scrunch, a crunch, a dry, bright sound. I shuffle, scuffle into town. So you definitely get the image of probably the fall season and a person shuffling their way through leaves as they're walking around the town. There's also a poem called an acrostic. They don't rhyme, but what they do is to describe something or tell a story using a few letters of a word, and each line begins with a letter from that word. For example, the name Daniel, you would have a line starting with D, a line with A, a line with N, I, E, and L. Daniel does not allow any nagging or insults to get to him. Everyone likes his big eyes. Now, that's written in poem form, if you can see it, and it is not rhyming. It is telling about Daniel. So you could try that today with your name. To be a good writer, to be a good poet, to be anything that you want to describe as a poet, you have to read. And I'm going to encourage you now to make sure you check with the York County Library's webpage, yorklibraries.org. Go to What Can I Do? Books, Movies, Music, and search the catalog. Finding any of these books, and then try reading and writing some of your own poems. Share them with your friends. Poetry writing can be challenging. It can also be fun. It can also be a great way to express what you're thinking, seeing, and feeling. So enjoy your poetry.